My mum pushed me down. My daughter, who is only 6 years old, testified clearly. I was kicked out without understanding anything. Of course, I had no recollection of what had happened. I have lost my credibility, and my husband has asked me for a divorce. If this continues, I may be separated from my daughter for a crime I did not commit. Why did my daughter fall down the stairs? If she was pushed, by whom? Why did my daughter lie? The puzzling question haunts me. And then I identified the person who did this to my daughter. I will never forgive this person. My name is Hattie, and we are a family of 3. My 6-year-old daughter Nina and her husband Wesley. She is still in the prime of her adorable era, but lately she seems to be avoiding my husband a little bit. Could it be a mummy-only early stage that is unique to girls? I think it will be much longer before she starts asking me to do her laundry separately or saying she is annoyed. My husband is perfectly normal, whether he notices it or not. He was never the type to be so attached to our daughter, so he doesn't seem shocked. Even so, when I go to work on weekends, my husband and daughter spend time together. He sometimes takes our daughter to his parents' house. I can't say that my mother-in-law and I get along well, but she is willing to accept just my husband and daughter. Looking back, my mother-in-law has not liked me from the time I greeted her before our marriage. Whenever she gets bothered by me, she would show it through her facial expressions and attitude. I remember, I was so upset that I panicked and didn't know what to say. After that, no matter how many times we met, the relationship never got better, and I was pretty much exhausted every time I went to my in-laws' house. Even after our daughter was born, her behaviour toward me did not change. Now, today, Saturday, I have to work again. I envy my husband who has weekends. In the afternoon, I received an unusual call from my husband. When was the last time he called me while I was at work? Hello? What's wrong? It's Nina. She's hurt and in the ambulance. What? What happened? I don't know. She is unconscious. Anyway, come to the hospital. My husband sounded panicked and the detail was not clear. I immediately told my supervisor the reason and asked for permission to leave early. What in the world were the injuries and to what extent? With frustration taking over, I got into a cab. When I arrived at the hospital, my husband and parents-in-law were there. My daughter turned to me, and I was so relieved that I lost all strength. She woke up just a few minutes ago. Great! I heard she fell down the stairs of our apartment building. Our apartment building has an elevator, but my daughter often wanted to take the stairs. My daughter, who is very energetic, sometimes wants to do such troublesome things. I am sure she used the stairs again today. So, look, Nina, tell me what you just said. She slowly pointed at me and said, My mum pushed me down the stairs. Huh? Everyone in the room looked at me. I tried to repeat what my daughter said over and over in my head. However, I still don't remember it at all. I was working at the office today. It was my fault, too, for taking my eyes off her when we left the house. Hattie, what the hell were you doing? Lying to me about work and ambushing me. Ambush. I was at work, remember? That's impossible. Are you still lying? Nina said so herself. You can ask my boss about it. I was really at work. I'm sure you guys can talk behind to make sure your stories would match, you know. Oh no. What are you thinking? I don't trust you anymore. We're getting a divorce. What? Oh my God, I want you out. My husband and mother-in-law kicked me out of the room. I could see my daughter looking dejected and my father-in-law in the back of the room with a confused look on his face. I had no choice but to leave. On the way home, I talked to the nurse and learned that my daughter would be in the hospital for a few days. She had bruises all over her body and had lost consciousness from a blow to the head. I was told that some of those bruises were a couple of old ones that had begun to heal and that they were probably just minor everyday injuries. I was very worried about my daughter, but due to the stubborn attitude of my husband and mother-in-law, I cannot even enter the hospital room now. I headed home feeling my hair pulled back to the hospital. My husband did not come home that day. I guess he did not want to see me. But why did my daughter say she was pushed down by me? I don't know what she misunderstood or if she was lying. Also, I felt uncomfortable with my daughter's words. My daughter doesn't speak that way usually. If my daughter were to say the same thing, she would probably say something like this: "Mama pushed me. My mum pushed me down the stairs. She would not use honorifics because she is only 6 years old and Thor were only her relatives around." The expression pushed down also seems mature for a daughter. It is possible that someone is making her say it. If that's the case, who in the world would do that for what? I couldn't get anything done and kept thinking about it. The next day I went to the hospital to see my daughter. My husband did not answer the phone and I could not stand still, so I came. I find my daughter and father-in-law alone in the hospital room. My husband and mother-in-law seemed to be gone. I quietly entered the hospital room and prepared myself for what my father-in-law would say to me. "Hello." "Oh, Harley, it's all right. My wife and Wesley won't be here today." "Thank you." "Mummy." My daughter reaches for me. I run up to her and hug her. My father-in-law began to speak to the teary-eyed parent and child. "I don't think you would be so rough with Nina. Nina is not the kind of girl who would lie. Thank you. I really didn't do it. Hey, Nina, can you tell me what you remember?" Daddy said, "If I told you the truth, I'd lose Mummy." "Your daddy?" Then my father-in-law also told me about yesterday. It seems that my husband and mother-in-law were there first when my father-in-law came to the hospital after my daughter was rushed to the emergency room. My mother-in-law was out shopping and arrived early because she was on her way. Nina had already been awake before my father-in-law arrived and had finished seeing the doctor. "Nina, did Grandma and Daddy tell you before Grandpa arrived?" "That you have to say Mummy did it, or something." "You're not going to lose Mummy if you tell the truth. It's okay." "Yeah, they wanted me to practice to say that Mummy pushed me down the stairs." "I knew it. But why?" "I am aware that my mother-in-law hates me. Maybe it was out-of-the-line harassment, or she just wanted to get rid of me. If that was all, it would be understandable. But what is the intention of even my husband joining in? Furthermore, my daughter is certain that she was pushed from behind on the stairs of our apartment building, but she says she did not see the perpetrator's face. It is no wonder that she could not see if it was from behind. If she says that someone pushed her and she fell, it is an injury case. My husband, who has not called the police, is the most suspicious. Actually, Ms. Hattie, Wesley and Nina come over to our house sometimes, right? Wesley leaves Nina alone at home and plays on his phone or goes out somewhere by himself. I thought maybe he was leaving her to me because we are his parents, but now I'm suspicious. My wife's a little hard on you, isn't she? She was saying Nina was becoming more and more like you, and she didn't like it. I feel like they are conspiring to do something shady. Speaking of, my husband and mother-in-law have not come to see my daughter today. Is my husband indifferent to my daughter and my mother-in-law hates her? It makes me sad to think so. I'll talk to my wife and see if I can find out more about Wesley. Yes, thank you for your cooperation. Wesley isn't returning my calls, but I'll see what I can do. My father-in-law left first and I stayed with my daughter until just before visiting hours was. My daughter told me the truth. She made me realize that I was crazy by telling me that she listened to her dad to practice saying it in honorifics. I am greatly indebted to my daughter. The next day I went to the detective agency. I can't reach my husband and I don't know where he is. But today is Monday. He must have gone to his office. If they could follow him from here, I might be able to find out something. I request an investigation and go to see my daughter again, and that night, my husband showed up at my house. He brought the divorce papers. He was pressing me to sign it as soon as possible, but I told him I wasn't satisfied with it, and that I wouldn't do it just yet. He didn't want to listen to me and seemed irritated. "Contact me once you signed it. Hurry." He said so and left. My father-in-law informed me that he is not sleeping at his parents-in-law's house. Where in the world is he doing what? I guess we will find out in the coming investigation. I spent a few days going to work and the hospital. Occasionally I am there with my father-in-law at the hospital, but luckily I don't run into my husband and mother-in-law. I asked my daughter, and she said that her husband only showed up briefly, but he hardly ever comes. I was happy with my daughter to hear that she would be discharged soon. But I was also frustrated that my husband was not very concerned about my daughter. The day before her discharge from the hospital, she disappeared from the hospital room. To my surprise, my husband had discharged her from the hospital without my permission and brought her home with him. Soon after, I received a message from my father-in-law. My daughter had just arrived at my parents-in-law's house with my husband. Moreover, my mother-in-law said that she would take my daughter in. I'm also angry at their selfish words and actions. What do my husband and mother-in-law think of my daughter? I went to my parents-in-law's house. I suppressed my anger and remained calm in order to get my daughter back. At my parents-in-law's house, my mother-in-law glared at me at the door, asking me to leave. Then my father-in-law came to my rescue. "Stop it. Mr. Hattie, come in." My mother-in-law looked frustrated and clicked her tongue. My husband left her with his daughter who had just been discharged from the hospital there. "Where is Mr. Wesley?" "I don't know." "Is he with someone he's having an affair with?" "What?" "So you know, I just found out about it from my wife yesterday." This was discovered as a result of an investigation by a detective. My father-in-law questioned my mother-in-law and seemed to know only that my husband was having. My father-in-law, with a look of dismay on his face, called my husband to come home. We put my daughter to rest in another room, and we started the discussion. My husband had been having an affair for about a year and wanted to leave me. However, if it was due to his own infidelity, he would have to pay alimony. My husband thought of a way to avoid paying it and did it. He thought that if he said I had abused our daughter, he could use that as grounds for divorce. In addition to that, he planned that he might be able to get alimony from me if he wanted to. My husband was also disturbed by my daughter. Would he be willing to let her get hurt or even die if he wanted? This makes me furious. And my mother-in-law hates me. She might have thought it would be great if my husband and I dieted and helped him for this. I wonder if she had any hesitation in bringing me down. She suspected that my husband was cheating on me by leaving his daughter alone. It's all about spotting opportunities for herself and taking advantage of them. "Wesley, you've got another woman." "What?" It's okay. So, are you and Ms. Hattie getting it in?" With these conversations, she was planning to make my daughter a victim. Of course, she hid everything from my father-in-law, who would have objected. And my mother-in-law said she would take my daughter, but this is complete harassment of me. My mother-in-law feels hatred toward my daughter, who is becoming more and more like me. She has no regard for my daughter's happiness. I saw my wife push Nina one time and make her fall. I don't know if she was abusive to her when I wasn't around. My father-in-law was incredulous and questioned my mother-in-law. "I don't have a choice." She would cry for her mummy and not shut up. "That's the child of the bitch who took my Wesley. She's an abomination." "How dare you?" These are statements that are backhanded and admit violence. The old bruises I heard about at the hospital could have been the work of my mother-in-law. Even though I didn't know, I felt sorry for my daughter and my eyes welled up. I can't imagine how scared she has been. I just feel so bad for her. I must listen to the whole story to clarify the fact. It was you who pushed Nina down the stairs, wasn't it? Yes, I did, because you and Nina were both in my way. But you know, there is no security camera in the hallways or staircases in our building. There's no proof. Okay, I get it. My husband also lost his temper and laughed. What a twisted character he is. I can't believe that there is a father who is okay with causing serious injury to his daughter. I will make sure my husband gets what he deserves. There's no proof, so if Nina says it's you, it's you. Well, now my affair can be dismissed. We can get divorced without alimony or any other mess. What's with your attitude, Wesley? What you did to your own daughter is a crime. And Nina told me that you and your mom made her say that. Well, Nina didn't see who pushed her, so I'm sure Wesley will be fine. What are you talking about? Even you! It seems that even if we discuss this further, my husband and mother-in-law will not reconsider. It would be better to prepare for divorce than to waste my energy on useless things. I decided to take my daughter home. We can even say that Nina was kidnapped by Mrs. Hattie. I heard such a voice, but I ignored it and left my parents-in-law's house. After that, I did not go home and went to my parents' house. I cannot stay in a place where my husband and mother-in-law might come. I left my daughter with my mother and went to consult a lawyer. A few days passed as I was taken care of at my parents' house and started preparing to move out. I had received several messages urging me to file for divorce, but this time the call came from my husband. I guessed it was about that story. I put my phone to my ear. Hey, what do you mean I'm going to pay alimony? I'm paying you $7 million. It's not crazy. You did nothing but cheat on me, hurt Nina, and made her lie. You have only done evil things. You can't prove anything about Nina. I'm glad I recorded our discussion. You confessed to me. Damn it. Then he hung up on me. I wonder if my husband realizes that it's not just about paying $7 million. In addition to divorce alimony, child support, medical treatment, and property division. We have also tracked down the woman with whom he had an affair, so we will ask for alimony from her as well. In addition, I told the police about the injury. I am looking forward to the outcome. After that, my ex-father-in-law called me. I was able to hear many stories. Her ex-husband was charged with assault after he fell into debt poverty. His workplace found out what he had done, and he was avoided by all employees. Although he persisted for a while, he was eventually forced to resign. His affair partner got her money squeezed out for alimony and left my ex-husband as he had become a poor criminal. When she dumped him, my ex-husband looked like as if it was the end of the world, according to my ex-father-in-law. Furthermore, my ex-father-in-law decided to get a divorce and kicked out my ex-mother-in-law. My ex-mother-in-law was a full-time housewife. She cried to my ex-husband, and they are living together in a shabby apartment. My ex-mother-in-law cannot work now. Combined with this situation, my ex-husband had to work long hours at a part-time job that required heavy physical labor. Even though he was tired and exhausted every day, he couldn't quit and he has lost weight. After my divorce, my daughter and I started living together. My daughter is no different now that her dad is gone. My ex-husband was not very interested in our daughter and never got involved with her properly, which we can afford to live with the alimony we received. My daughter's injuries are all better and she is playing well. If I ever get married again, I would like a handsome man with a good personality who will be good with my child this time.